Hello, I'm Patricia Sigmund. I'm here today to talk with the amazing and trailblazing Pat Schroeder, who's going to share with us memorabilia from her decades in politics and her insights about women in politics. You have made a real mark and impression in the world of presidential politics as well as congressional politics. Talk to us about the experience you had as being the co-chair of the committee for Gary Hart for president.
Well, Gary Hart was obviously a good friend, and he had run in '84, and he really should have won. That was the year that the wonderful DNC, because they were so afraid he was going to win, changed it so that elected officials could be superdelegates. Okay, so that kind of took it away from Gary Hart, so that was very sad. But I was also very excited that my friend Jared Ferraro got to be vice president that year. And I thought they looked so great that there would always be a two for a ticket, we'd have more diversity in the ticket. 88 came and Gary decides to run again, and would I be vice chair? Sure, vice chairman. So we are. And he called one weekend and said, would you go take these speaking engagements for me? I have something important to do. So I had flown out to the West Coast to do some interviews with editorial boards, and I had gone to Ohio to do interviews with, and I was now back in New York, and I got a phone call from my husband who said, has anybody called you yet? And I said, no. He said, turn on TV and don't answer the phone again. Well, that's when his business turned out to be the monkey business. I was devastated, absolutely devastated. I had said to him, look, I'm the dean of the women, and there've been rumors, and he was, So anyway, that's what happened. So I was so angry that I thought, well, doggone it, I've been running around doing a lot of this stuff. Why don't I just run? Well, it was kind of the stupidest idea ever. I mean, there were already 7 candidates. All I needed was one more. And of course, unfortunately, the press kept calling about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, which was just awful. But anyway, that's how it all started. and I suddenly found out that was not going to work at all. That, you can't get in that late. You can't, the money thing is just a huge problem, obviously. And people give you money because they want something and they want you to be president. And not because they think it's a good idea. They obviously didn't think there was any way I was ever going to be president, and they were probably right. So that was a whole very interesting experience. And again, it was, you give a speech on nuclear energy, and they'd say, there she is. She didn't wear a suit, or she did wear a suit, or whatever. So it went on and on.
When you decided to run for president, you had come from a prior experience where you ran for Congress when people told you had no chance of winning. So how did that experience inform your run for president?
I think that I thought by the country seeing Geraldine Ferraro just 4 years ago, it was ready. So it's like, okay, we're there. We have done this. Women are moving. So away I went. And not only that, I have been doing a lot of it for Gary, but it's interesting, if you are a stand-in for someone, it's entirely different, obviously, than if you are the candidate. So about the 7th time, somebody said to me, a journalist would say to me, why are you running as a woman? I thought, oh my word, okay, well, I guess I really misguessed all of this. And I remember being in the South somewhere giving a speech saying, it's so hot. Don't you sweat? And she, oh, horses sweat. men perspire, but we women, we do. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm in real trouble. Oh, I don't know where am I? So, it was very clear that the country was clearly not ready. I'll never forget getting introduced by one state chairman in the South when I thought, well, maybe I was wrong. He was like, I like this woman. It's a fine woman. This woman knows more about military and everything else than all these other candidates combined. And I don't mind having a woman president, but I cannot believe we can have a man for first lady. And I was like, oh, okay, now I got to get up and give a speech rather than say, what? Are you guys, you're nuts, you know? And that's when I realized, you know, you got a long way to go yet.
So you spent about 5 or so months on the campaign trail.
And wonderful people around the country had these fabulous run parties, and we had parades in Philadelphia, and we had all sorts of good things going on. But no, it just was the other frustrating thing, to be honest. I would get letters from men saying, why don't you want me to vote for you? And I'd be like, what? No, I want everybody to vote for me. What is going on? And what would happen is we would have very varied schedules every single day, doing all sorts of things. But the only thing they put on TV was my going to a women's group. And so people were interpreting that as she just wants women to vote for her. She's running for women. And it was very frustrating. You know, I talked to the media, and Jesse Jackson and I had a talk about it because he was running too, and he said they only put me in front of black groups. And so I was like, okay, she goes to the women's group, he goes to the black group, and everybody else goes to the multi groups. So it was a real problem with the media too.
Did you, during your presidential campaign, keep your own unique style of messaging, of communicating?
Oh, of course. You know, no, I didn't have any consultants, and I didn't have any. The only one that did a poll, which was kind of interesting, I think it was Time Magazine did a poll, and I ended up being third, which was pretty fascinating. But you know, I was never going to be beyond that. So, and I do think women have to be very careful around these consultants. They're not used to dealing with women. And so often I think they give them bad information. I don't know.
What do you think a woman who's running for office needs to do to maintain her voice and her gut instinct while she's running for office?
I think maybe this. Listen to real people and not to people who are trying to build you an image. I mean, you're not an image, you're a person. And I think you do a whole lot better trying to relate to people one-on-one and what they want and what you're hearing.
When you decided to end your run for the presidency, you gave a very wonderful speech about it. And I know that you showed some emotion in that speech. Talk to us about what the impact of that was.
Oh, that was amazing. I'm giving this speech, and when I say I'm not going to run, there's this incredible groan and you suddenly think, oh my God, all these people who gave up their summers, who did all this stuff, who worked so hard, I've let them down. I have let them down, and the last thing I ever want to do is let people down. And so I shed a few tears, came back and finished the speech. Oh my word, you would have thought that the world had ended. It became a game as to who can be most offended by her shedding tears. And I remember people saying, we do not want a person who sheds tears with their finger on the button. And I said, well, you know, I don't want anybody with his finger on the button who doesn't shed tears. I'd be real worried about that. Let's debate. But you're right. And then men all started shedding tears, and that was wonderful because they were showing they had compassion. And I kept thinking, why can't we have compassion? what is this whole thing about women aren't allowed compassion? So yeah, no, it's really been something that's every woman that's run has had to deal with. Hillary had to deal with it, and yet the men never have to deal with it. In other words, they get extra points for it. So I always said Kleenex should be my corporate sponsor. They'll probably put that on my tombstone. She cried.
You have a real ability to use humor to fight back.
It's the only way to do it. You've just got to find a way to take it on and stand together.